Hello and welcome back to Constituent Marking with Fred Long on Proof Text. And I'm Fred Long, and we're working through First Thessalonians. Now, I've just produced, published, co-edited a book, co-authored with Chow Chow Chen on First Thessalonians. And so it's a real joy to keep working deeply with this text. And so if you want to see a sustained kind of text that provides also a translation of First and Second Thessalonians. You can check that out at glossahouse.com. All right, so let's jump into verse 9 of chapter 1. Av tigar peri emon ap angelusin o pian is odon escomen pros umas. Kepos, I guess I'll just stop there. I see a gar. I'm going to start with a gar. I'm going to use red today. I'm going to make it real bright. Gar is indicating strengthening. Of two, when I see that of two, I know that that's a single underline because it's nominative. It's going to be working with some verb. Then I see a peri emon. I put that inside of parentheses. Concerning us. So they concerning us, ap angelusin. Now this is a verb, third plural, and this is referring to the people in Macedonia and Achaia who've heard the report. So this is present, active, indicative, and it means something like to report or announce. Now, what they're announcing actually is an indirect question with a very interesting interrogative, I guess it's an adverb, interrogative adverb of quality, opoion is odon. Now, these actually go together. And is odon means like an inroad. It is a feminine noun. And even though it looks like it's masculine, it is a cross-dresser. I've always said that about him. Odos is masculine endings, but it's feminine. And that's why this interrogative pronoun of quality has an on ending. These are actually in agreement. Okay, so what sort of inroad? What sort of inroads? That's the startup of this indirect question. This is the content of what they've announced or reported. We had. So escomen is a verb. It is a second aorist from echo, actually. Echo means I have, so there's a pretty major stem change. It doesn't look like echo, but that is indeed what it is from. It's omen is first plural. We had. So second aorist just means that it's an alternative stem. And the second aorist verbs, by the way, the verbs in Greek that show second aorist stems, they tend to be very basic and old verbs, like basic kind of things like having, going, saying, eating. These are like basic kinds of actions. And so indeed, that's what we have here. So had. So what sort of inroad we had? So the direct question would be, hey, what kind of inroad did you have? Well, here it's the indirect question. So they announced what sort of inroad we had with you. Pros umos, okay? With you, and so here we're going to get another indirect question of manner. So this first one indicates quality, opion, quality, what sort of. And then pos is going to indicate manner. So pos, gets a box because it's an adverb. And how, in what way, epistrepsate, single underline. Pos epistrepsate. I don't like how I obscured the pos a little bit. So how you turn. Now this is strepho. That psi used to be a phi. I'm switching over to blue for this clause. And that became a psi, or a psi, psi I should say, because of the sigma alpha ending. That's a second plural aorist ending. So 2p there, second plural, epistreps ate. And there is an augment right there, epe. So that's just that's the first aorist, active indicative, second plural. How you turned pros ton theon, to God, apo ton idolon, from idols. Okay, so these are both prepositional phrases, so they each get parentheses. Prostontion, with God, how you turn to God from idols. Okay, in the last verse I had mentioned the pagan environment of Thessaloniki. And so indeed that's coming up here. Now I love this. So the rest of this sentence, as we'll see. So how you turn to God from idols, do levine. This is a subordinate clause, an infinitive of purpose. So I'm putting brackets to start to set that apart. And then I see the verb, so I single underline it. And then I see these datives. And these datives consist of God, theo, and then two adjectives, zonti ke ale theno, true. So living and true. Zonti is actually from zao. It is a participle that it's an onti ending that gets obscured a little bit because it meets with the alpha, and so it becomes an omega. But that's actually a participle. That's okay. It's an attributive participle, the living and true God. So ath alethinos, here the dative means true. So to serve the living and true God. Now I underlined those datives, but I need to correct that because this verb, delevine, in fact, takes the dative direct object. Okay? To worship or bow down to, or something to give service to serve the living and truthful God. So notice that in this marking, if you ever do make a mistake like that, you can just write those double lines right over those dots, and then they kind of disappear. So yeah, these are actually direct objects of the verb to serve. Now this is a present active infinitive, do levo, to serve. And this is a type of purpose construction. Now it's not heavily marked purpose, the goal, but there's an intentionality of turning. This turning is the means by which they are able to serve the living and true God. And by the way, whenever God is referred to as the living God and also the true God, but particularly living, it's often in the context of distinction from idolatry, because God is a living God. And if you want to read a couple of very interesting tales, there's one in the Septuagint that is about Daniel, called Bel and the Dragon. Now it's part of the Old Testament pseudepigrapha, but it can be found. It's not an authentic story of Daniel, but Daniel is a sleuth who uncovers idolatry and actually they're pretty funny little stories. So these were stories that were circulating about the prophet Daniel turned sleuth. I'm not going to spoil it for you. I don't think these are scriptural, but they were developed in this context of how do we deal with paganism, and that issue is worshiping the true and living God, the living God, as opposed to the god Bel and opposed to this dragon, both of whom Daniel exposes. I mean, he makes the dragon, well, I'll spoil that one. He makes the dragon blow up. Okay. Well, how did he do that? You'll have to read the story. All right, so that's how I'd mark up this verse. And there is some stress on the they, for they themselves concerning you, about you, are announcing what sort of inroad we had with you and how you turned to God from idols to serve the living God, the living and true God. All right, well, thanks for listening and watching, and hope you find this helpful. If you have any questions, reach out to me, and hope to have you watch and listen next time. Take care.